Hello, everybody. I'm Allie Duzette, and today I have a special treat for you. Astrologer Sil Carson agreed to do a webinar for us on the current eclipse portal. So today is 2 days after Christmas. On Christmas Day, technically Christmas night, at least here in Utah, there was a full solar eclipse. And 2 weeks from that time, there will be a lunar eclipse. And between those two eclipses is just a powerful and potent time to do internal healing work. And so I really wanted to make you guys aware of that and dig into it a little bit deeper. And I thought, who better to draw upon their wisdom than Sil Carson? So no further ado, Sil Carson,
Okay.
the stage is yours.
Can you hear me, Allie?
I can.
Okay, great. Awesome. What I'm going to do for this morning is I am going to share my screen so you can kind of see what is going on. And number one, thank you for the invite. Welcome, everybody. I'm always happy to talk about it. I am a yogi astrologer. I'm a founding director of the Bodhi Yoga Center in Provo, and a lot of what you do with mind-body connection is also connected to the cycles, planetary cycles. So that's where the astrology came in.
Oh, Sil, can you make yourself a little bit louder? Is that possible?
Yeah, let me check one thing.
Okay, you were already louder.
Does this help? Can you hear me now better?
Let's see, guys, send it in the chat. Can you hear a little bit better?
I can talk up.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think that will be good. Thank you.
All right, let me know if you can't hear. If you can't hear, I'm happy to increase my volume.
Thanks.
A couple things that we want to talk about. And the first thing I want to kind of bring up is understanding, like, what are we even talking about? The only way to experience an eclipse is to look at the lunar cycle, because it's inherently connected to the lunar cycle. And I've got a little graphic here for you that just teaches a little bit about the lunar cycle. And you cannot have a moon cycle without the sun, because when it is a full moon, the moon is 180 degrees away from the sun, so it's shining a lot. When it's a new moon, the sun and the moon are connected, so we don't see the moon because there is nowhere to shine light on it. The moon is connected to the sun. So I want to just let you just take a deep breath with that one. And so once a year, I offer a moon calendar where you can keep track of these lunar cycles throughout the year. And I want to look at 2019's lunar cycle calendar. And so you can learn a lot more about astrology from just simply studying the moon cycle than you can if you try to study the whole vast thing. It's so much information and so easy to become overwhelmed. So first things first, when we look at this, this is a calendar of the lunar phases of 2019. And for those of you that don't really understand what the lunar phases are, I want to bring that graphic up again and take a look just at this overview. There are 4 phases to our moon, just like there are 4 seasons to our sun. And everything we're talking about today is related to how we view it from the Earth, all right? So we have a new moon, which is the start of the month. We have a first quarter moon, which is halfway between the new and the full moon. Then we have the full moon, and then we have the last quarter moon, and then we come back to the new moon. So every single week, the moon is doing something. And why are we even talking about it? Well, in astrology, if I were to pull up, I'd love to just kind of log in. That's not the one I'm looking for. I'd love to log in to the full training that I do for the group. So when we look at, I'm just going to log out here. When we look at what I do at gobodhiyoga.com, I offer several different certifications, but the content we're talking about today is related to the planetary cycles. And so when you enroll in this full training, you get this reference library. And that's what I'm using, just so you understand where we are. I'm going to look up the planetary index. Now, nobody can see this who isn't enrolled. I'm logged in right now, and that's why I can see it. So this is for people who are enrolled in the full training. But just to give you a little bit of perspective on what we're talking about, the moon in general represents your emotions, your feelings, your sense of belonging. It also represents your soul, your energetic body. And so the moon represents a lot of different things. But first things first, let's take a quick peek at this graphic that I use at the beginning of any private session. I'm going to come here and let me see. I think I'm going to use this one. When we look at the solar system, these are like actors on a stage, and each one of these, it plays an archetypal role that makes up you. And so the sun is your identity. We can't survive without the sun for more than a few moments on this planet. And then the moon is everything I just talked about, your emotions, your sense of belonging, your energetic well-being. And so the moon is your inner self and the sun is your outer self. And that's what we're talking about today. Now, there's a whole other discussion about all of these other planets and planetoids and different things that were discovered at different times in the history of humanity. But what we're going to talk about today is the sun. And of course, the sun is key to us, but the moon is the only planet, it's technically a luminary, that moves around us. So that's why I say if you would study nothing else but just the cycles of the moon, you would learn a ton about yourself and a ton of astrological insight and understanding. So what I want to do is just take a quick peek at the lunar cycle and where we are in this lunar cycle. We are in what's called the lunar eclipse portal approach. So we are approaching a lunar eclipse. So let's just kind of take a deep breath. I know it's exciting to kind of explore some of these things, but I'd love it if you take some inhale and some exhales just for your own well-being as we cover this material. You can go back and look at the recording of it later, so you don't have to grasp all the information we're talking about right now, but just be in the moment, because it's really easy during an eclipse portal to have trouble focusing. You're seeing me kind of trying to search for words. You're also more empathic because the veil is thin. And so if we take some deep breaths, inhaling and exhaling, and really ground ourselves, there's this empathic ability that's pronounced during an eclipse portal. And so if we as a group I can feel everyone doing it right now, ground yourself, then the information and the content we're talking about will mean more. Okay, so the sun has these 4 phases. When the sun crosses 0 degrees Aries, that's called spring, when it's the equinox. When the sun crosses 0 degrees Cancer, that's the summer solstice. When the sun crosses 0 degrees Libra, that's the autumnal equinox. And when the sun crosses 0 degrees Capricorn, that's the winter solstice, and we just crossed over that. And that is key for understanding what's going on, because the moon goes through these phases and these cycles every month. So we're having this energy of what's going on inside us in an energetic well-being way each month. And so the new moon is a time when the sun and the moon are in the same sign, the same house. They're at the same degree and minute as each other. So each month as we come upon the new moon, there's this desire to do nothing. It's really hard to keep things going, because we are naturally being supported at releasing everything we've experienced over the last month and setting new intentions and fresh start. The week after that, there's this first quarter moon. And when we look at this, I'll give you a graphic of just here we are on Earth, the sun and the moon in the same place. And then a week later, when we hit the first quarter moon, the the moon has now moved 90 degrees away, and that creates something called a square. And in the lunar cycle, that first quarter moon brings up this inner struggle. And the inner struggle is real. You'll experience it if you're aware that's what's going on. The planets aren't making you do anything. It's weather patterns. So we're subject to weather patterns. So if I take the lunar calendar for 2019 and we take a look at this, it is the first quarter moon is a time that brings up inner struggle in the first week of each lunar cycle as it transits 90 degrees to the sun. And that's the graphic I just showed you. This is where it moves. I mean, we're sitting here in the middle. So it's moved to a sign that's 90 degrees away. And so it brings up this need to kind of assess or evaluate what's going on inside of ourselves. After that, we come to a moon that is the full moon. We've come down here, okay? Your sun, your identity, and your moon, your soul emotions are squaring each other. Like they're squaring off in a boxing match, okay? Now, a week later, we hit this full moon. And when you look at a full moon, the full moon is when the crime rate goes up or babies are born. It's all of this incredibly potent external world energy. And so the full moon is when they are in opposition to each other. For example, Libra is the sign of commitments and vows, marriage, partnerships, how I exist in relation to my partner. Aries is how I exist on my own. So when you have the sun is in Libra in the fall, the full moon will always be in Aries. And so it's this me versus us. And it shows up, if we look at this lunar cycle chart, the full moon, I'm reading kind of in a circle, the full moon creates outer circumstantial stressors. They appear in your environment and you see them outside of yourself. People have a hard time when outer self and their inner self are diametrically like 180 degrees opposed. And so that's why you see the crime rate go up. You'll see if it's a moon that's close to the earth, you'll see high tides. And that's the time that we are required to show up. Now, the full moon is a great time to bring all of your ideas and projects to a head. We have extra energy, and people who don't know what to do with that energy will tend to run the karmic side, which is like, oh, like I'm doing crap, like I'm getting arrested, or I gotta, you know, all sorts of different things. I'm fighting, I'm arguing, I'm more combative, or whatever it is. So keep in mind that when the moon is full, you're being asked to deal with a lot because it is bringing all of your public self and your inner self into complete opposition with each other. And then when we get to the last quarter moon, the last quarter moon is where we do this inner work. So when we get to the last quarter moon, so the calendar has the new moon here, so you know what it looks like, the first quarter moon, the full moon, and then the last quarter moon, it is time to do the inner work. First quarter moon brought up inner struggle. Full moon brought it to a head, outer circumstantial stressors, so you had to deal with it. Last quarter moon, now you're ready to do the inner work, the inner soul work. And then the new moon, the next new moon, is where you let it go. So to give you an individual example of what that looks like, I just showed you the full moon. The last quarter moon, it squares again. But instead of being up in this sign, Capricorn, it's down here in Cancer, sense of belonging. I'm not telling you about this month, I'm just telling you about the cycle. And then it ends, the cycle ends with coming back to the new moon. So it makes a circle. And we're moving around the sun, which is slower, okay? So there are 4 seasons to our year: spring, summer, winter, fall. Okay. Autumn, winter, fall, all of them. So the sun will go through these signs very slowly. It'll go through about a sign a month, and then it goes through the next sign for about a month, then it goes through the next sign. We go spring, summer, autumn, winter. Okay. The moon goes through a sign every 2.5 days. Your soul, your emotions is feeling a different energy every 2.5 days. And week by week, we experience this cycle of drained, letting go, hard to stay awake, releasing, setting new intentions, renewal. Okay, because every single one of these signs and planets has agency that propels it forward. So we can choose to be drained and keep pushing and feel wiped out and then get sick. And then the first quarter moon brings up an inner struggle because we can't do what we wanted to that month. And then the full moon, it comes to the head. We're full on sick. That's when we go to the emergency room, the doctor, we really start treating it. And then we do the inner work of healing. And then we let go of that. So it can be used karmically, like to pull you backwards. Or like, ooh, I feel the new moon coming on. I'm going to give myself some time to rest. I'm not going to push myself to complete this project I'm trying to do. And then you honor the inner work that comes up in you. And you do some inner work, whether it's journaling. It would depend on what sign the first quarter moon is. That would give you some tips. And then the full moon is when you bring the energy to fruition because you rested over here. And because you did the inner work over here, now you've got energy to really propel yourself forward, to really increase your soul's potential for the month. And then the last quarter moon, you do the inner work and the assessment. You deal with the inner struggle first quarter, inner work last quarter, and then you release it. Now we've just talked about the moon cycle, and we're here to talk about this eclipse, right? So we can't talk about an eclipse without talking. I'm going to try logging into that full training again, kind of giving y'all a sneak peek into there. If I go to gobodyoga.com and down to soul weather, and then I'm already logged in. So if I go to the planet X, and I really want to understand the moon cycle and what creates an eclipse, I can pull up this graphic from my reference library. There is a path that the earth takes around the sun. It's this masculine path. Sun is masculine or yang, depending on how you want to interpret that. The moon has a path around the earth that's yin, feminine. Where the yang and the yin intersect in the heavens is called a moon node in astrology. It's a mathematical point that's calculated at the actual point in space where the path of the moon and the path of the sun intersect. And the south node looks like a little bucket with handles. And the north node looks like a little saddle with stirrups. The south node represents where you were before you were born. I can pull up anyone's natal chart, which is a snapshot of the sky at the moment you were born, and it will show me, I'll be able to interpret and indicate what you were doing before you came here. In fact, it even indicates why it was time to come. And the north node represents where you will be by the time you're complete and ready to transition out of this life, where you are now riding instead of hauling, because this south node is the baggage. It's the baggage you bring in. It's the past stuff. It's the deep generational stuff, past lives, pre-existence, whatever word you want to put on it. The south node indicates what was going on and why it was time to come in. And it indicates while you're in here in your life, your defaults. Like what will pull you backwards, what will bring up karmic charge that you have to keep working through. And sometimes if it's rotten karmic stuff, it's going to really like pull you backwards. You won't be able to move forwards. And then when you are working more dharmically towards this north node, and you'll do it without even knowing it. You know, you don't have to know about astrology for it to work because it's weather cycles. So you're going to be affected by it. It's your awareness that creates what you do with it. So if you're unaware, it is affecting you. If you are aware, you are affecting it. And so the north node is what you're moving toward. It represents your dharmic self. And so at any moment in time, there are 3 charts that I work with primarily. There are more, but the ones I take the soul weather group with is we can look at your natal chart, which is a snapshot of the sky at the moment you were born. And when you look at a snapshot of the sky at the moment you were born, let's see, you can see what was going on. And so if I pull up a snapshot of the sky, let's see if it gives me some good sample charts. I'm going to go down here. And I'm going to go to, let's see, it gives me some samples. I don't know if it'll include anything in here. Oh boy, we could look at all of these folks. You know, and again, it doesn't do any good to look at someone you don't know per se, but because so many people know her, I'm just going to see what I have here to choose from. We're going to just choose Queen Elizabeth because most people know her all over the planet. And so if we look towards, I just had her here, there we go, and we select her chart. At the moment she was born, Capricorn was rising. The sun was at 0 degrees Taurus. The moon was in Leo, so she is a Leo moon, okay? But more importantly, her nodes. Her south node is Capricorn, and her north node is Cancer. And her north node is conjunct Pluto, Pallas, and Vesta. So we're taking a look at her chart, all right? And I can tell, based on where the sun and the moon are, that she was born pretty close to a first quarter moon. So there's this inner struggle that's a lifelong pattern. She's going from Capricorn, which is discipline, patriarchy, like public reputation, to Cancer, a sense of belonging. And anyone who's seen any documentaries about her knows that she wasn't supposed to be queen. Her father wasn't supposed to be king. It was her brother who was supposed to be king, but he abdicated to marry Wallace Simpson. And so for her, the public persona of having to be this authority feels karmic. It's like it wasn't supposed to belong to her. And her north node is just in her house of everyday routine and the simple things, and Cancer, nurturing, finding a sense of belonging, next to Pluto, really deep private spaces. And so, you know, it's an inner struggle for her, but she's done a really great job with it. So there's an example of her life path. So we can talk more about it. I just gave you a 2-minute like Reader's Digest version. Can you hear me okay, Allie?
I can hear you great.
Okay, so the south node not only represents where you're coming from, and the north node not only represents where you're going, but it represents how you choose, whether your actions are karmic or dharmic. And when I make karmic choices in my life, it's going to pull me back toward having to work through baggage, because there are hidden gifts and talents in the bottom of this south node. And there are incredible potentials in your north node. But I cannot get to my north node if my south node keeps pulling me backwards, because there's karmic stuff that keeps needing to be pulled out of here. We're giving you a lot of background, but just inhale, exhale, repeat. I can also pull a chart for, let's see if I can get her back up here. I can actually go and I can pull a chart for Elizabeth's QE2's solar return. So her current solar return, we're going to do it, whoops, with her natal placement. And we want her return date. Let's see if it'll let me do this. Planet return or ingress. We're not doing her Pluto return. Let's do her solar return. So I can do your solar return and give you a map for the next year. It's coming, the next year. And so this is QE2's current solar return. Look what's going on. The south node right now, the nodes will change signs about every 18 months, and they'll come around every 18 years to their natal placement. This year, we are all in south node Capricorn, and we're going to north node Cancer. So she is experiencing her whole life lessons compressed into 1 year. This year, we are all going from south node Capricorn to north node Cancer. And she just gave an address. Go watch her Christmas address as by way of homework for this conversation. This year, she's a Virgo rising, which is getting it right, organizing, rethinking, reprocessing, taking care of healing, day-to-day stuff, nursing. So she's taking care, not her personally, but she's got lots of help, and her concern is the care and health of her husband. Right now in her marriage house, she's got this wound and this great love and this great treasure and this deep, deep spiritual connection and this kind of mama bear intuitive sense. So what's going on in her marriage house this year as Philip is winding down, okay? But I want to talk about what's been going on prominently because it's part of a planetary cycle. Her moon this year is Scorpio, so she's dealing with deep, dark emotions this year. The fear of losing her spouse, but not only that. Her south node, her unlucky part, and her need to reckon with it, Saturn, and do deep, deep psychological stuff is in her house of kids. And if you know anything about what's gone on in her family this year, she just had to basically deroyal one of her sons. In fact, her favorite child, Andrew, who was affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein in human trafficking, and there's a gal who's accused him of molesting her or having sex with her while she was a slave for Jeffrey Epstein. Her north node is in Cancer, nurturing, in the house of mentoring, and her sun is in the cave. She just wants to hide, doing deep psychological stuff. And in the cave, you have sex, death, taxes, hidden stuff, and it's Uranus. So this is what's going on, and we can look at her year and see what's going on for her. And so not only is it a year that's been rough, but it's a year that she's had to deal with something called, well, that I call Karmageddon, which is Saturn, the south node, and Pluto conjunct. Saturn is where you reckon rock solid world reality stuff you can't escape. Pluto is where you deal and face with fears and deep stuff and loss. And the south node is everything we've talked about, where you can kind of feel unlucky or their hidden gifts and talents once you pull out the karmas. So this configuration hasn't happened since the Reformation. It hasn't happened in 502 years. So this is profound that you are even alive on the planet while this has been going on. Now, her birthday was back in April. For us, this was going on for the past year. We've all been dealing with this in Capricorn. So this last year, we've all been taking responsibility for our old karmic stuff and dealing with where we're blocked. And it is a sign of patriarchy, tradition, father, public reputation, career, and there's this loss and transformation. Each one of us has been dealing with this. It is a planetary cycle we're all dealing with. Now, if we go on and we take a look at what's going on right now, just in the Mountain Standard Time, the South Node is no longer in Carmageddon, but we are coming up on Saturn and Pluto, exactly conjunct, which hasn't happened in 30 some odd years, not since 1981. And I'm not going to talk about that. If anyone is interested in it, let's see, where are we? You can go to my website and under yoga workshops and retreats. On New Year's Day, I do a floral water meditation where I lead people through and I talk about the energy of 2020 and what's coming up. If you're too far to join, you're welcome to participate. It's $5 less to do it online because you're not getting the floral water meditation. You're getting the meditation, that'll be there on the video, but it'll be loaded up later that day. So if anyone is interested in really learning the energy of 2020 and what's going on, got a hefty year ahead. Not good, not bad, it's your agency that determines whether it's good or bad. You choose. But for us right now, this South Node and this North Node are in Capricorn and Cancer. So we're going from taking responsibility for our old stuff and embracing our sense of belonging. And I'll talk about the shifts that take place because they're monumental for 2020 with this at the Floral Water Meditation. But I've just given you all of this stuff that seems like rambling. Why is she even talking about this? Because if you look at an eclipse, let's look at a solar eclipse, and let's look at the 2019 lunar calendar. And I have a few calendars left. I sell most of them before December 10th, so I can enjoy the holidays without having to run to the shipping and be with family and stuff. But if you look at January 2019, if you're interested in purchasing your own calendar, there's a place on the website to do that. We began and ended 2019 with the solar eclipse in Capricorn. Why? Like, why did we do that? Okay. When we pull up the 2020 lunar calendar, we begin 2020 with a lunar eclipse in Cancer. Now, if you've been listening, I've just been talking about the nodal path being going from Capricorn to Cancer. Capricorn is your career, your responsibilities, your sense of belonging, your authority. Cancer, North Node, is your home, your hearth, your feelings, the nurturing, the mama, the sign that rules the moon, your sense of belonging. Why did those same stories come up again? Because the only time you can have an eclipse is when the moon is passing between the sun and the earth. That creates a solar eclipse. That's what we just happened. That's what we just saw happen. And that was on Christmas Day. So if this Christmas you're extra tired right now, you feel like you've been hit a little bit by a Mack truck or whatever, it's because Christmas, the time that is such full moon energy, getting everything done, and it happened on a new moon. So we were pushing when we were tired. And that hit at 10:21 p.m. on Christmas Day evening, okay? And it happened when I'm gonna pull it up here, I'm gonna pull them both up so you can look at the chart with me. And you're not supposed to understand everything that's happening on this chart, they're just examples. It happened December 25th at 10:17 p.m. over Provo, Utah Mountain Standard Time. You'll see the sun and the moon are the exact same degree, so that means it's a new moon, and you'll see it's close to one of the nodes. Whenever you have a new or a full moon close to these nodes, it creates an eclipse. And so this is a really, really profound thing. And so to give you an example, anytime you have a full moon opposing the sun close to one of the nodes, it means the earth is in between, because the path of the earth and the sun are intersected by the moon or the sun. Now this is from an old training from last year, the Leo Aquarius life path we were all on at the end of last year. And so when we look at the start of an eclipse, we started our eclipse with a new moon, okay? And we are going to end this eclipse window with a full moon. So I'm going to give you this example again, and you can pause the recording and just contemplate what I'm saying. A solar eclipse, which we just had, is when the moon is new, because the sun and the moon are on the same side of the earth, and the new moon, solar eclipses can only occur when the sun and moon are in perfect alignment on the same side of the earth, when the moon is new and on its apogee, and only when the moon is at or near one of those lunar nodes, okay? Solar eclipses are a time to reassess your life's path by doing healing work through your chakras. It stimulates healing of your chakras. Okay. A lunar eclipse only occurs when the earth is passing between the sun and the moon. And so if we were to look at this chart, okay, you have a solar eclipse that we began with, and you have a lunar eclipse that we end with. At the solar eclipse that we began with, the sun and the moon are close to the south node. And we know for all of us, excuse me, we know for all of us the sun and the moon close to the south node. The south node is in Capricorn for 18 months. It won't come around to this placement for another 18 years. So you have a 2-week window that you won't have again for 18 years to do healing of your chakras around old karmic responsibilities, career, discipline, father energy. In between the sun and the moon was Jupiter, the expander. So it's even bigger than we think it is. Okay. Now, what's going to happen during the month is the moon is going to continue to move, and it's going to move all the way through here, and it's going to come up to being close to the north node. And so if we look 2 weeks away on January 10th, 2020, the moon, the sun is still in Capricorn. It's a different time of day. So that's why it's in a different location, but it's still in Capricorn. You see the sun is in Capricorn down here. It's still in Capricorn up there because it takes a month. The moon, 2.5 days. So 2 weeks later, the moon is next to the north node in Cancer. Sense of belonging, emotions, mother, nurturing, your tribe. So just take some deep breaths there. And what I want to do, just to reiterate it, is to look at these two again. We went from a solar eclipse where the moon and the sun were both in Capricorn. It comes around all the way 180 degrees away. It's just this isn't showing it. It's showing the Earth as stationary, even though we're moving. And then the moon comes from all the way over here to all the way over here to the full energy. All right. So when we look at the eclipse portal, we are looking at this energy of full or new moon. All right. Now, Allie, I kind of feel like right now we need to stop and open it up to questions. Does that work for you?
Let's do it. Guys, come and type in your questions on the chat function.
Yeah, there's more that we'll talk about, but let's talk.
Yeah, if you have a question, you have like 2 minutes to type it in, guys.
I'm going to keep going, and then we'll take questions in just a second, but I just wanted to open it up for clarification for folks, okay?
Perfect.
Now, what I want to share with you, again, now this is from last year's graphics since we did this on a fly, so it's not going to be 100% accurate by sign, okay, by nodal path. But what happens is halfway between the eclipse going from the south to the north node, the moon squares the south node. There's this inner struggle with where you came from and this inner struggle with where you're going. And it triggers both nodes simultaneously. So halfway through the moon, I'll give you an example. Excuse the throat clearing. I pushed a little hard on the new moon for Christmas, just like everybody else. So I'm fighting back just a little bit of congestion. But okay, so last time we had an eclipse, I'm going to give an example of the eclipse portal we were in 2018 between Leo and Aquarius. We were in a north node Leo and a south node Aquarius. And at the mid portal, you can watch what goes on in the news and you'll see it. At the mid portal, there was a protest in Charlottesville, I think, North Carolina, South Carolina, forgive me, between white supremacists. It was on a college campus in Charlottesville, and between folks that were trying to protest white supremacy, okay? And during that event, a young woman was plowed down by a white supremacist in his truck, and she died because Leo was love, and the North Node was in Leo, and the South Node was in Aquarius: groups, protests, social consciousness, mentorships. And when it squares both of them, it triggers the nodes. The South Node, where your karmic stuff is, and the North Node, where you're going, to make you very, very uncomfortable. So you will deal with what you are doing in your life. You'll deal with learning the 18 months worth of lessons that aren't going to come around compressed into 2 weeks. Now, Queen Elizabeth, who we used as an example, is experiencing her whole life's worth of lessons compressed into this 2-week portal period. And it pulls up where our wounds are so we can face them and do deep, deep healing. Healing that brings chakras into alignment. And while you're posting your questions, I'll just give you one more little perspective. I have 2 websites, gobodhiyoga.com and Go Yoga Online. Go Yoga Online, we're working on merging the 2 websites, but for now they're separated. But I do in-depth chakra training. It's 3 sessions. I have a chakra deck if you don't want to dive into the full chakra training that you can purchase. But right now it's discounted through summer 2019, that's old. It's just through December 31st. And in this, I teach the 4 pillars of chakra alignment. It comes with a 300-page chakra therapy manual. It has session 1 classes, session 2 classes. Session 2 classes include yoga practices for each of the chakras because I'm a yogi first and foremost. And then session 3 teaches you how to do practicum chakra therapy sessions with clients. And it has light color therapy videos that you can view that will align your chakras. So if we want to talk about the chakras, there's a liberating current that takes you up to do karmic work. And there's a manifesting current that takes you to allow blessings to flow down through you. And so I teach about that in the chakra training. But these light color therapy videos are about 2 minutes long. I won't do the whole thing. But it's for helping you clear blocks. Going from the karma to the dharma is what we do. Forgive me for this, but we won't watch the whole thing. But for example, starting at the karmic side and the dharmic side, these are light color therapy videos, and it's not giving the full resolution because we're recording. But they have theta music that aligns your chakras, and they help you in working through just by watching the videos. And so they'll take you through these different chakra alignments. When you work the liberating current, going from your karmic stuff to your dharmic stuff, it's hard work. We're doing clearing. And so that's what these light color therapy videos do. And so if you don't have time to do anything else and you're enrolled in that training, you can use those. So, aside from any of that, when you're looking at the nodes, the South Node represents your root chakra, and the North Node represents your crown. So if sometimes we have lunar eclipses that start at the North Node and go down to the South Node, that's opening up your ability to allow. Sometimes we have eclipses that go from the South Node to the North Node. That's opening up your need to do the work up your chakras. So when we look at doing the liberating current work, dealing with the old stuff, so we can reach the dharma of our sense of belonging. You have seen it over the past year. You've seen it in government, which is Capricorn. You've seen it in religion, big shifts, deep, deep Carmageddon-like shifts, from the Catholic Church to the Mormon Church to any of the others. I mean, you just look at all of them. And we are reshaping what our old traditions and old responsibilities are. And we are being taught right now to belong, no matter where you are, to find that sense of belonging. Now, if we wanted to, what we could do is take your natal chart. Let's go back, and we're using Elizabeth II as the example. We could take her natal chart and we could pull up right now and see what's being transited. And I could have a conversation with her to tell her what she can do and what she can't do and how to manage it and what she's supposed to be doing during this eclipse. Because if you put a clock on it, this is what's happening in the heavens minute by minute. And so we can talk to her and tell her, if she wanted to schedule a session with me, how to manage this eclipse portal. And we can look at what's for her specifically being triggered by this eclipse, or this year, or this moment, this current transit. But what we're doing right now is we're going from the South Node, root chakra, and doing some clearing work. So with my private soul weather group, the folks who are doing the full training, if I log into our private soul weather group here, what I just did for everybody in that group yesterday was the first day. Because look at this, we have 14 days and there's 7 chakras. So you have 2 days to work on each chakra. Was I gave them a big, long conversation about what we should be doing. And I talked about, for me, here's what it's triggering on my natal chart. Look at your natal chart. And then everybody talks through those natal charts. And I talk about what you can do, okay, to work with it. And so for us in general, what we can do to work with it is do the liberating current up your chakras. So day 1, which is yesterday, day 2, which is today, root chakra stuff. Day 3 and 4, sorry, sacral chakra stuff. Obviously mine has been throat, you can hear it. I'm doing throat chakra healing. That's been kind of going on this whole year. So all the way up to the crown, and the crown will occur on January 10th. It's going to be a crown chakra opening at 12:10 p.m. Mountain Time, and the moon will be conjunct the North Node. The moon is in the sign of Cancer, conjunct the North Node in Cancer, so it's about coming home to yourself. It's about finding your own sense of belonging. It's about embracing your tribe. And we can talk about what's going on in here, in the center, and how everything's aspecting each other. This is what I teach in the full training. And we can talk about what's coming up with the lunar eclipse. But halfway between those, it's going to trigger both your root and your crown simultaneously. And it's going to pulsate healing out from your heart in both directions. And so while we're sort of taking questions, I know this sounds like a really advanced conversation because it is, okay? I would much rather teach you how to interpret your own chart than do a session for you. I can do sessions, but that's why I offer the full training, and it's a fairly small enrollment rate when you understand what you're getting. So I'm going to turn it over to Allie, and let's talk about questions.
Yeah, so we got a few questions. Mostly, well, okay, Megan asked, when you had the chart up showing the seasons, is that the seasons of the Northern Hemisphere?
Yes.
Okay. And everyone wants to know, what work should we be doing? And so you pretty much covered that. Chakra work, right? So
work, liberating current chakra work, going from root to crown.
Yeah. Okay, root to crown work, guys. And so earlier this year, so Sil has a fabulous chakra course that's available at her website, and I have my chakra program that I did earlier this year, and I will open enrollment for that again probably right after this this lecture is done. So you have some options, and I sent out a free email series during that time just about just with stuff that you can just do, like wear red on a root chakra day, wear orange on a sacral chakra day, that sort of thing. So if you've been on my email list for a while, you should have that in your inbox. And if you haven't, then I probably have that up on my blog, which is allyduzette.blogspot.com. Okay, people want to know how much is your class? Should I just direct them to your website for that, or to PM you directly, or?
I could just show you right here so it's on the recording. If you go to gobodhiyoga.com, this is my full website. And if you go under certifications, it's right at the bottom. It's Soul Weather Life Coaching. It is, you can read about everything that's included. It's designed to help you not only do your own interpretation for your own chart, but for your kids when they're having tough times. You learn how to interpret your own natal chart. You learn how to interpret everything I was just talking about. What does it mean? What do all these lines mean? Well, our solar eclipse on Christmas, we had a grand trine. Earth, get grounded. On the lunar eclipse, we have this lunar eclipse with some configuration called a grand cross, get centered. Okay. So there's more to those, but you learn how to read transits and then and aspect patterns. And then you also learn how to interpret your own solar return from year to year. So for an astrologer that knows what they're doing, the price is anywhere from $100 to $200 for a private session. I'm right in the middle. I'm $150 for a private session. And then if you want a transit reading during the year, say stuff's going on, it's $75 an hour, okay? And then if you want your solar return done, it's $150 for that session. But let's say you have 3 kids and a husband or a wife that you want to have all their charts read. Well, that's gonna be a lot of money. So I would rather have you enroll in the training. It's $950 for the full training, but it includes, as long as I draw breath, it includes the private Facebook Soul Weather group where we're talking minute to minute. You get sometimes daily, a couple times a week updates, but you can see what one of the members of our group, she's like, I'm getting started, here we go. She's got her chakra deck out, she's got her chakra manual out, she has her moon calendar, she has her moon card for the solar eclipse, she has essential oils that she uses, and someone else is drinking cinnamon tea, which is very root and power center oriented, and she's got her chakra deck out. And so people are getting real-time updates from me, but you're also learning from each other in real time. Astrology is a language, and you can only really learn a language when you learn to speak it fluently. So my job is to help you learn to speak it fluently. So basically, for the price of having your whole family's charts done, and instead of coming to me once a year for everybody at $150 a pop to do your solar return to map out your year, you learn to interpret them yourself, and you have my support in how you learn to do that. I teach you, and this has online classes and everything else. So there's that, all right? Now, aside from that, the chakra training's simple version to get started in understanding the chakras a little more in depth is to purchase a chakra deck. And that's right at the bottom of my homepage. It takes you to the store where you can purchase a chakra deck. What's not available to the public anymore, just because it's kind of past, but I still have a few small calendars left and about 10 large calendars left. If you just type in moon cycle calendar, and this is how you would type it in right up here, it will take you to the moon calendar page and have a few left for 2020. So you have the option of purchasing the cards that go with it. They're included with the big, and even though it says pre-order by December 10th only, there are a few available to members of this group. So you can go there and purchase your moon calendar if that's what you wanted to do instead of the full program, or a chakra deck. You can do little things to get started. You don't have to enroll in the full big thing unless you're ready to dive in, because even if you don't know anything, everyone in this group is incredibly accommodating. So we are all there to support and help each other. The second website I have is Go Yoga Online, and that's where you can find the full chakra training. It's called 7 Chakras, Mind and Body, and its enrollment is right down here. And it includes a 300-page full color manual. It includes over 60 hours of classes. It includes your chakra deck. It's just really in-depth conversation, and it teaches you about the liberating, manifesting, and it teaches you the holographic chakra, which is all of your chakras work in each other. And so when you start working with some of that, you can go really, really in depth. What else? What other questions? There's more to talk about unless we're done. Allie, do we have still time?
Yeah, we have a few questions. While we're on this topic, someone asks, if we sign up for the course, do we get the calendar as well?
No, but you know what? That's a great idea. I would be happy to give you the small calendar and the deck of cards if you sign up for the full course. Yes, 100%. That's totally fair. Just for members of this group, it's not something I can offer to the general public. But if you want to, I am happy to include that.
Awesome, thank you. What a gift! I have my mine right here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I love my calendar. It's so fun. And it's nice because it's like in a circle and you saw how things are upside down, but the secret is as the year progresses, you just turn it and it's always right side up.
Yep.
But okay, another question that we had was, what is the difference between a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse? And so we kind of talked about that at the beginning of this lecture, so I don't know if maybe you missed the beginning, but do you want to just briefly explain that, Sil?
Yeah, solar eclipses can only occur on a new moon, okay? So let me see if I've got something I can show you here. Solar eclipses only occur on a new moon, and lunar eclipses only occur on a full moon. And because you have a full and a new moon each year, each month, you have a full moon, a first quarter, a last quarter moon. So a solar eclipse will only occur when it's a new moon and the sun and the moon are conjunct one of the nodes. So there was a graphic I showed you for that. I can't see it right off the bat. Here it is over here. So that's what creates an eclipse right there when they're close to the nodes, okay? Then you have the first quarter moon because the moon moves. And then you have the full moon, it moves around here. And then you have a solar eclipse, a lunar eclipse. So a solar eclipse occurs on a new moon and a lunar eclipse occurs on a full moon only when they're close to one of the nodes. And again, I didn't have time based on the invitation. I love that we thought about it kind of last minute. So it's nobody's fault. I'm just saying it's like, I didn't have time to do a graphic specific to this eclipse, but lunar eclipse is when it's close to the node, the moon node, and it's a full moon. Solar eclipse is only on the new moon when the new moon is close to one of the nodes. And it will happen about 2 to 3 times a year. And sometimes it's partial and sometimes it's total. The total eclipses are the most potent. We're dealing with annular and partial this eclipse season. Halfway the eclipse, your crown and your root are stimulated simultaneously, okay? We know based on everything I just told you, I'm gonna go back here, and I don't expect you to know it yet, but trust me, it's physics. It's physics, so it doesn't lie, you know? It's math and physics. So this, if it's close to one of the nodes, would be a new moon, which would make it a solar eclipse. Halfway between the new and the full moon, we hit this inner struggle. And it's gonna, during an eclipse, it's gonna trigger the south node and the north node, which is your root and your crown chakra simultaneously. So Allie, I'm gonna put you on the spot. What is right between your root and your crown. What is the center point between your root and your crown chakra?
Your heart.
Your heart. So it triggers this immense heart opening that is affected by both your root and your crown. And that's going to occur on the first quarter moon, which is January 2nd, 2020. Okay?
That is the
I am going to
date between the two eclipses, correct?
That's the halfway gate. So write that date down because that's the date to really focus on opening up the heart and to send healing both to your root and to your crown. You're drawing the healing you're doing right now from root to sacral to power center. By the time we get to the heart, it's going to be January 2nd. And so you draw on the healing you've done in those lower chakras these first few days, and you're going to be able to catapult it up towards your crown by January 10th. So I'm going to give you some dates just to make sure as we get close to kind of wrapping things up. I want to make sure you have the dates so you can like get a full picture, because this has been a lot of information, and that's why, you know, I just want to offer the training. I just want to teach you how to analyze it yourself, because we can talk till we're blue in the face, and it is a practice. You are learning this language, and it is your source that put all these planets in orbit. So you're learning about the conversation you had with your source. So when we go back to Elizabeth II, who's actually my 13th cousin in the way back, fun family fact. There we go. I'm going to pull this up. I wanted to make sure you all saw this. So coming up, whoop, pulling this up right here. If I can get it to work. Let's see if I can get it to work. Here we go. Boom. January 2nd. You see that, Allie? Look at the moon. What's going on with the first quarter moon?
Ooh. There's the T-square going on, and it's conjunct Chiron, and right there, Black Moon Lilith.
Do you see how it's squaring both the nodes? There's that square I was telling you about. But what will be happening on that day that the heart is opening? The moon will be conjunct Chiron, the core wound. It looks like a key, opens up a door to healing and mentorship. In the sign of Aries, you personally, you're initiating something new. And it's also conjunct Black Moon Lilith, which is the medicine woman. In Pisces, the sign of spiritual sensitivity. So we have a genius point, a stellium genius point that day to opening up. Isn't it? I can't make this up. Eclipse portals are about chakra healing, and you've got the moon conjunct the key to open up the door to healing. And you've got Black Moon Lilith to medicine woman to help you do that. And it's triggering the south and the north nodes. So that's a key date. So before we go into any other questions, if we have any, that's what you're seeing that day, where the heart is taking the healing you do yesterday, today, tomorrow, all the way through January 2nd. You're healing your lower centers, and it's going to create this heartfelt foundation to then bring that healing all the way into the upper centers. And it's no joke. It's work. It's work to do the liberating current. Let's see if I can find a chakra manual just to give you a peek into what we're doing. Okay. I don't know if I'll be able to have it. I don't know if I'll be. Oh, look, I do. I have one right here. I can pull it up for you. Just flipping through this chakra therapy manual. This is from the 7 Chakras Mind and Body training. And if I open it up and we look at the contact sheet, I can scoot forward. Okay, here we go. All of this healing work. If I go back here, I'm going to go, I'm pulling a sheet out just by way of a quick little friendly preview. You have 2 paths. You have the upward liberating current, and you have the downward manifesting current. The downward current is grace. It's where things pour down you. The liberating current is the work you do up the chakra, okay? And so when we look at that, you can look at the ancient story, Bible story of Adam and Eve. There was a tree of knowledge of good and evil that took you down, manifesting liberating current to have to do work in the material world. And there's a tree of life that represents the crown pouring down, taking care of things you can't do no matter how hard you try. But this one is for you to keep doing the work up the chakras. And so
this eclipse cycle, you mean?
this, yes,
Look up. Yeah, yeah.
Eclipse cycle. It's compressing 18 months worth of life lessons into a 2-week period. And let's look at those dates again, just by way of review. December 20, well, it says 26 because that's not mountain time. For us, it was December 25th in mountain time. And it was 4 degrees, 6 minutes Capricorn on a new moon, okay? Then if we go to January 10th is where the portal will close. So January 10th is the root, crown chakra opening. Okay, 12:09 Mountain Standard Time. Those are your dates. And then your first quarter moon is, just pulling it up here, January 2nd. And it's really, like, it's in the sign of you personally, your physical body. So do something that day to really do some deep nurturing. You've got Black Moon Lilith, which is the mama bear energy, the angry feminine energy, the Kundalini Shakti energy, and it is the empath in the sign of the empath. So it's like the medicine woman sign. My natal Black Moon Lilith is 12th house, which is the house of Pisces. So I am a medicine woman, and my natal North Node is Aries, just a few degrees off of my Black Moon Lilith. So I can be a grumpy old lady. The older I get more grumpy, or more medicine woman-y. I have to choose. I have to choose which one is activating. And because Black Moon Lilith is affiliated with Pisces, it makes me more empathic the older I get. And boy, was I glad when I started studying astrology to figure that out. So if we go back, just by way of synopsis, and we look at her birth chart, QE2, okay, then what we have here is a snapshot of the sky at the moment she was born. And it represents a conversation she had with her source about what she wanted to do while she was here. And she was a co-architect. You wrote this in the heavens with your source. So need to get that out for sure. And we have a couple more minutes for any other questions, or Allie, if you want me to wrap up by something else, directing something else.
Yeah. Well, the one tiny brief thing, I don't want to dig in super deep, but someone had asked about specifically what to work on as far as solar versus lunar eclipses. And one thing that came into my mind was about the masculine and feminine, and what that indicates when the sun is blocking out the moon, or when the moon is blocking out the sun. If you just want to address that for a brief moment.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm going to see if I can pull up the graphic. And I don't know if I'll be able to pull it up this quick. There's so much I've been like working on here. So there's one of them. Ooh, I like that. Oh, it's a document. That was bad. So we'll see. We can pull that up. These are documents. I didn't mean to do it. I meant to do images. So I've got a ton of them because I'm a Gemini rising, which is a teacher, a gatherer of information, a communicator, you know. So, oh, I like that better. That'll go quicker. This will just be much quicker. This will help. And it's actually a really beautiful way to end. So kudos to whoever asked that question. I am going to pull that up. Here we go. Since we started with the solar eclipse, we'll start there. Now, when you order the moon calendar, you also get 9 cards that teach you about, so you can pull out the card on the first quarter moon. And there's a class that goes along with that. First things first. All right. Solar eclipse is a sun-moon conjunction. The sun is eclipsed, prompting outer and inner self alignment, bringing shadow to light. So during solar eclipses, there's a brief time that the moon can block out the sun and accentuate our periphery. Okay, what you normally don't see. What is normally familiar to us is not visible. We have a finite ability to direct our focus and intention as human beings. Okay? Sometimes that finite ability can make our view be really singular. We don't see the bigger picture because it becomes myopic. All right? And then we miss out on opportunities because we could only see things our way. And solar eclipses steal away your familiar. It forces you to consider options you wouldn't otherwise consider. And although it can cause some upheaval, eclipses are intensely healing to bring our yin, lunar, soul self to the forefront. So the moon, the emotions, the soul self, the energetic self, the sense of belonging is eclipsing your outer identity. Okay. So they are periods or portals of growth, doing good growth. And so they can catapult you further, like 18 months further ahead of where you would have been. And if you happen to have been born with the Capricorn, Cancer, lunar axis, moon node axis, life path axis, it's triggering your whole life's lesson in those 2 weeks. So it prompts healing, depending on where it starts. Sometimes the solar eclipse starts north, which triggers our ability to receive help. Sometimes the solar eclipse occurs at the south node, which triggers a 2-week opportunity, which is this one is, for us to do the work to clear. So the next eclipse portal that comes through, that opens up the crown down to the root, we've done the work to clear. So it can come all the way down through. So what we do this time develops our ability of what we can do next time, because they'll alternate, which again, I can't make up. It's physics, it's mathematics, and it's love of your source for you. Lunar eclipse is a sun-moon opposition. Okay, a solar eclipse is a sun-moon conjunction. They're coming together. A lunar eclipse prompts outer and inner polarity. It brings light into shadow. So a lunar eclipse, we talked about it, the sun, the earth is exactly between the sun and the moon. Lunar eclipses give us a glimpse into our shadow self, okay? It's what lies hidden in our subconscious that comes to us as fate. That's Carl Gustav Jung, one of my favorite psychologists, who used astrology, who used mandalas and chakras way back in the early part of our 1900s, okay? What we discover about ourselves and others during the outer circumstance stressors that lunar eclipse illuminates shows us our surfacing wounds we need to heal. It dissipates our need to use our wounds as the hidden energy, oh, this is big, that drives our actual reality. Did you hear that, Allie?
Yeah.
It dissipates our need to use our wounds as excuses for the energy that's driving our reality. It wants us to heal them. Knowing the truth gives us the opportunity to embrace and heal our whole self, as well as see where we have room to grow in new directions and realign our chakras to receive healing on a more holographic level. And when we were looking at the soul weather training, the Facebook group, I want to point out, you know, I've known Karen Beagles for 20 some odd years. She found me as a yoga student. She called, I hung up. I thought I'll never hear from her again because she was really suspicious about what yoga is. But now she's a teacher. She's taken all my certifications. She's incredible. She knows what she's doing. So during the root chakra, she pulled out all the root chakra cards from her deck. She's applying it to her moon calendar. She's got her solar eclipse card. She's got her chakra manual. She is taking it on, really, really doing good work. And so it gives you the opportunity to heal your whole self, as well as see as where you have room to grow in new directions on a holographic level. When a lunar eclipse occurs at the north node, it's prompting our allowing to flow down. And when it occurs at the south node, it awakens root to crown. Well, we know the lunar eclipse will occur at the end of the portal, so it will open up the crown chakra. So I hope that's helpful. There's one more thing I need to say, if we're okay. Do we have another second?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me just a second. I'm babysitting a doggy for a friend who's out and about for Christmas. I have 2 other dogs, so I have a house full of paws. You'll hear a little ball bouncing in the background. So this is where we come in. This is where we go out. At any given moment, it can show you what your dharmic and karmic choices are for a decision. That's another session I do. So this is where the veil parts between worlds for us to come in. This is where the veil parts, like, well done, thou good and faithful servant, for us to come out. Depending on your choosing, you're either moving backwards, which religion calls hell, or you're moving forward, which religion calls heaven. Okay? So the cumulative of your life's choices determine whether you leave this life in a more karmic space, more towards root, sacral, whatever consciousness you activate your chakras to by the time you die, well, there you are. And if you can work all the way up through the crown as many times as it takes, it'll always be for a different reason, and it'll always be, and you leave this space in a dharmic space. So when we have an eclipse portal where the soul and the identity are next to these nodes, if you have family members, if you have, Holly just lost a pet, you know, it's like the gate is open. So if you're close to passing, you can slip out through and be complete. So we've been using her as an example, all right? This QE2, you know. Her husband just went to the hospital, you know, and almost died. And now he's home for the time being, but he's 90 some odd years old. So for her, this portal, if someone is close to going, they can pass. I'm not saying she will. I don't use astrology to predict. I use it to help my awakening. But the key is when we look at her chart, and I'll say this applies to all of you, okay? This is a pattern that was set forth at the moment she was for her whole life. You can study your natal chart for your whole life and learn new things the whole time. That's why it's so powerful. You can pull up a transit at any moment in time and it'll tell you which side of your thinking is dharmic and which side is karmic, which is taking you backwards. And so it helps you become aware. This gives you the pattern. It does not give us her frequency. It is the frequency she brings to this that determines whether she evolves or not in this life. The awareness, frequency is just a word that means where you frequently are, mind, body, and spirit, is the frequency you carry. So your frequency can change. If you go from root to crown, you've changed your frequency. If you allow crown to come in and take care of what you couldn't do before, that raises your frequency as well. That's why my life's work is the yoga, the chakras, all of those different things. And so when you look at this story why eclipses are so important is it triggers the your chakras to open, one or the other. And there's some big shifts in 2020. We're actually going to go through a whole month portal where we have 3 eclipses. And I talk about more of that in one portal. So it opens up the liberating and then the manifesting current. It's like, bam, stand back. But I talk about that in the New Year's Day floral water meditation. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful.
I'm clapping, Sil. I thought it was fabulous.
Okay, I know I'm preaching to the choir. I know there are a lot of you out there that are energy healers, that know about chakras, that are already doing your work. That's why I love working with these groups. My North Node is in the 12th house, so I like to work behind the scenes, and I really don't put myself out there because I'm like, I just want to be sequestered. I want to be in a sanctuary at this point. But I do come out of my little groundhog hole. My little introvert Emily Dickinson and I have the same birthday and the same life path. So here we go. But when you look at these, you have the option to do root, sacral, solar, or you have the option to allow the crown energy to pour down. And depending on the eclipse, this time we're on this eclipse, doing the work to clear the chakras, because next time eclipse, we're going to need to be able to open up and allow. But if you have blocks here, if you have blocks here, if you have blocks here, I can't make this stuff up, then you can't allow, because it comes down and it goes, bam, it kicks itself back out. And just in doing this, my throat is clear. I don't need to I don't need to clear my throat anymore. I don't feel like I'm choking. Just in having this conversation, cleared a block.
Amazing.
Isn't that interesting?
Amazing.
It's amazing. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. And I will send out this recording to my email list. So check your email. After it, gets up on YouTube, it'll take a while, but it will get up there hopefully later today. I did get a message just now from someone who said, Allie, I already did all of your chakra sessions. I have pre-recorded energy work that you can do to clear your chakras and realign them, and just to learn more about like their basic nature. But one thing I suggested to him just now was that he just sit down for a moment and just ask each chakra in his mind, what's something I can do for you, chakra? Root chakra, what do you want me to do for you today? And that's something that anybody can do, and you can just do that today. You can do it right now. And as we go through the next 13 days, just sit down with your chakras every day and just say, hey guys, what can I do for you? And listen, because your energy system wants to heal, and it wants to work with you to heal, and it wants to tell you what to do. It wants your body and your energy and your emotions, they're all on your team. And sometimes it can feel like, your body's working against you. You have these things that aren't healing, or you have these emotions that are still causing you troubles. And it can feel like you're enemies with your body or with your energy field, but your body and your energy field are always on your team, and they always have a message for you. They want you to heal. So I encourage you to just take some time today and tune in with yourself and just really listen, because you will find answers that you did not know were there. You will find answers to questions that maybe you didn't even know that you had. And this is the power of this eclipse portal. So thank you so much, guys, and check your emails, and thank you, Phil.
If you want, Allie, I can send the link to you for the moon cycle calendar.
And fabulous, please. Yes.
Good to include in that email, and I'll do the 3.
Yeah.
And then
perfect.
You can include whichever ones you want. But thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Namaste.